just heard one of the kids go, "No!" This is what happens when all the clowns leave and I come on, right? All that you just saw just now was for me. That was all my introduction, okay? You're probably wondering, I must be very important to have all of that happen beforehand. I am, all right? So you should stay and listen to this, really. My name is Sam Welbeck. I am a school principal of Manaret Heliopolis International School. And I'm here to talk to you today about technology, and technology specifically, and children, all right? My talk is entitled, "It's Their World," and I have a challenge, which is to try to convince you, and I've got about 20 minutes to do this, to convince you to give your children technical devices. Yes, to give your kids phones, tablets, and computers. All right? Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, what? No way. Everything I've ever read tells me not to give my kids anything. Well, actually, I've got 20 minutes to convince you the other way around. When you look at this picture, you'll get images in your mind of horror, all right? What are these kids doing? They should be out playing, all right? They shouldn't be looking at devices. Well, that's because over a period of time, we've been reading time and time again that devices are bad for our children. I've been in education now for over a decade. And as a school principal, I interview many parents. Parents ask me all the time about handwriting practice. How good is my child at handwriting? Has their handwriting got any neater? Can they write more quickly? But you know what parents have never asked me? Never once. They've never asked me about touch typing speed. No one asks me, how quickly can my child type? Now, for me, that's an odd thing. Because, well, we live in a very different world from the world we grew up in. Let me ask you a question. Serious question. If you left your house and realized that your phone was still inside, let's say you'd got in the car, you're going to work, you start driving, and then you go, I left my phone. How many of you would go back and get it? How many? Yeah, I would. Yeah, loads of course you would. All right, because you can't go to work without your phone. Your phone is very important to you. Now, if the same thing happened, but you'd forgotten your pen, would you bother? Well, of course not. Right? You can just borrow a pen from anyone. But the phone is different. The phone isn't just for communication. It's your life. It has everything on there. Pictures of your family, your loved ones. It's got your Facebook on there. You can't miss what your friends are doing. It's got Twitter on there. It's got your entire address book. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the way in which technology has entered our lives has changed the way we think. I can prove it to you, all right? How many phone numbers do you actually remember? I'm going to tell you, all right? If you're a husband, you know your wife's phone number, because if you didn't, she'd kill you. You probably know your mother's phone number, and that's it, right? If you're a wife, you know your husband's phone number, you know your sister's phone number, and you know, of course, you know your mother's phone number. You have to call her every day. That's all you know. I have 3 grown children. I don't know their numbers. I know my wife's number. Because remembering numbers isn't necessary anymore. Technology has changed what we need to remember. It's changed our lives. And it isn't going away. It really isn't. So we have to start thinking about how we're using technology when it comes to the future. Here's an example. Look. This curve you can see is the TEF's US consultancy. They're a US consultancy for corporate business, and they were asked to give us some inclination of how much technology was going to change over the next 20 years. And their answer was this. In 20 years' time, what we now know about technology will have advanced 1,000,000 times in 20 years. 1,000,000 times. We are never going back to paper and pen. It is never going to happen. So we have to start letting go of these ideas. Let me show you what the future looks like. And this is where it starts to get a little bit serious, all right? This is a pharmacy. Sadeleia. I'm learning, right? This is a pharmacy, but it's one in the University of California, San Francisco. It hasn't made one mistake in 350,000 orders. Not one mistake. It'll never give you the wrong medicine. It never gets tired. It's never going to ask for time off from work to get married or to look after its child. Okay? This is where the future is going. Here's another one. Robots will replace 1/4, that's a quarter, of all US combat soldiers by 2030. That's less than 15 years. Every 1 out of 4 US soldiers will be robots. Now, I don't mean the sort of robot that walks around like this. I'm talking about technology that can control, that has artificial intelligence, that can think. That involves planes that can fly themselves, right? Machines that can look around corners. And here's another one. Because, of course, all of your children are going to be doctors. That's why you're here. You're looking for the school that's going to make them doctors, all right? Well, Johnson & Johnson, you know the people that make the baby powder, right? They also do a lot of other things. One of the things that they do is they work on this. This is a sedasis system. It's FDA approved, and it can automate anesthesia, low levels of it, automatically. Now what happens is you have an operator, but he's not there in the room. He's able to look at all of this from a monitor. This is what the future looks like. And the jobs that your children may do, we don't even know about them yet. All right, look, for example, a cyber security detective inspector, right? That's what your child might be. Little Yusuf, who you keep asking, what do you want to do, Yusuf, when you grow up? Well, he might want to do this. You see, cybersecurity is a huge issue. Here in Egypt, every single piece of information about this nation is held somewhere on a computer. Every single one of you, if you're a citizen, you have an ID card. The number of that ID card is somewhere on a computer. This is Egypt's national security. It can't be tampered with. Someone has to police it. Someone has to be able to stop cyber attacks. This will be a huge job in the future, and it might be the job of one of your children. Big data. A big data scientist. Another huge career in the future. Well, how do we know? And what is big data about? Well, I'll tell you very quickly. Big data is everything you do online. When you send an email, when you send a WhatsApp picture, when you click like on Facebook, when you tweet, everything you do is recorded. It's recorded somewhere, somebody has it. And all of this data is building up. Now try to imagine all the people in Cairo. Try to imagine the people in Egypt. Now think of everyone in Africa. Think of the amount of data which is available. Now this data isn't just left to store somewhere. It's used in order to be able to make big business better. You see, if people know what you like on Facebook, they know what to sell you. They know what products to make. But someone has to turn all that data into a story that companies can understand. And this is what a big data scientist will do. A big data scientist will analyze this data and be able to turn it into a story that companies can use. This is Heba. She's 21 years old. Here's the university she went to. Here are the things that she likes. Here are the places she goes. This is the age she's most likely to get married, where she's going to buy a house. And when companies have that information, they know exactly how to target her. Your daughter could be a big data scientist. So if we know all of this, why are we ignoring it? Why are people coming to me and asking me about handwriting instead of touch typing speed when we know how important technology is? Because of fear. We're afraid. We, the adults, you and me, we're afraid. You see, we didn't grow up the way our children are growing up. We didn't grow up with the technology. Our children are what we call digital natives. People who were born at the time when the internet was already there. But most of us were not. We were born in a different time, so we don't understand our children. And because we don't understand them, we get afraid. We don't want them to live a different life from us. Do you know this face? Everyone knows this face. If you've got young children, you see this face 100 times a day. What is this face telling you? I'm bored. I'm bored. I'm bored. How many times do you hear it? I don't want to do that. I'm bored. I want to do something else. The lives of our children are different from ours because they have so many choices. Technology gave them that. Here's an example. When I was a kid and your teacher told you to go and research, you had to go to the library. If the book you wanted wasn't at the library because someone else had borrowed it, you had to wait. When I was a kid, my favorite program on TV came on once a week. And if I missed it, I had to wait a whole week for it to come back again. I learned patience because I had to wait. Our children don't wait. Everything is available when they want it. You want a cartoon, you open the telephone, you go to YouTube, you press on cartoons, and here they come. You want to change the cartoon to Tom and Jerry? You can do it instantly. You're fed up of that? You want to listen to music? You can do it. You want information? You can download it. You want to talk to your friends? They're there on WhatsApp. They're there on Instagram. They're there on Twitter. When we were young and we finished school and we wanted to talk to our friends, we had to wait till the next day, right? Because mom and dad wouldn't let you use the house phone to call your friends. You probably didn't even know what their number was. But today things are different. So we get this face a lot. Okay, so what's the solution? How do we work around this? How do we get rid of this fear? Well, first of all, we work with them. At my school, we use technology for learning. We don't run away from technology. We're not afraid of technology. We give them the technology. The first thing we do is we change that boredom into something that they might enjoy. You can't take a child of this generation who is used to being able to get things when they want it and tell them to sit in a classroom while somebody talks for 50 minutes. No pictures, don't talk to the person next to you, don't walk around. That's impossible. What happens is they get bored and the learning stops. And the moment one of them gets up and starts walking around, we shout, ADHD, sit down, something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with him. He's bored because we are trying to drag him into our prehistoric world when actually it's their world we should be stepping into. So we use devices. We use something called Apple Classroom. Apple Classroom in the middle school is something that we use to help our students learn. We control what is on the device. We don't leave them with the device to use it however they like. We decide what apps are on the device. We guide them through their use of technology so that it's responsible, so that they aren't left in the open ether to go and speak to whoever they like. We make sure that the environment is safe through the controls that the technology gives us. This is the solution, not taking the devices away. Now, when you go on Facebook and you read some of these articles, they will scare you. They will tell you, don't give devices to your children. You give devices to your children, they'll go blind. After 1 hour, they can't think, and then they can't sleep. Well, guess what? You are going to have to control the use of the device, not take it away from them. Let me give you an example. People ask me all the time, at what age should I give the device to my child? What age is too young? Is 5 years old too young? I don't believe a kid under 5 should have devices. Well, this is my answer. When you give a device to your child, especially if it's connected to the internet, you've got to think, would I let that child out of my front door at home alone? If the answer is no, I would not let my child out of the front door alone, then the answer is no, you should not be leaving them alone with a device. Because the internet is the outside. You have no idea what they're going to see, who they're going to speak to. You need to be there just the way you would be if they were going outside. You wouldn't stop them from going outside. You wouldn't say to your child, you have to stay home all the time because I'm afraid of what might happen. So don't say to them, you can't ever have a device. But what you do is you be there. You guide them through it. You help them. You let them get used to the technology. You help them be comfortable with the technology. Because the technology isn't going away. It's becoming more. We are going to use it more and more. In fact, their world is going to be completely surrounded by technology. It will dictate how they live. And we, as their parents, we have a responsibility to let them get used to it, not to deprive them of it. Taking technology away from your children is giving them a disadvantage against children who are in other parts of the world who will use this technology and who will be the pioneers of it in their time. Right now, as Egyptians, you have a chance. You have a chance to be in the race. You have a chance to be able to compete at the same level as everyone else, because technology doesn't limit you at all. It's the same internet you're connected to. It's the same devices your children are using that they are using everywhere else in the world. Don't deprive them of it. Technology isn't good or bad for children. It's the use of the technology. And the solution is for you to get better at using it. There's no difference between these two. There really isn't. It's what they're using the technology for which is important. And for those of you who are on this side, who prefer how this gentleman is working, you have a responsibility. And your responsibility is this. You have to learn the technology yourself. If you want to know what your children are doing online, get online. If you want to know what your children are posting on Instagram, get an Instagram account so you can follow theirs. Here's an easy piece of advice. You're worried about what your children might be watching on YouTube? Give them your YouTube account, because the history of what they're watching will appear on your phone. You can see it. You can block things. Learn how to turn off the router at home. The router is the router, sorry. I know a lot of you know it from the American pronunciation. In England, we say the router. It's the little box that Vodafone or Orange or Egypt Telecom, the little box they gave you for internet. Did you know that using this box, you can turn the internet off just for your children's devices? Now imagine if you did that at 7 o'clock so that they wouldn't be using it while they're supposed to be sleeping. But you don't know how to do that because you haven't done your research. Don't blame them for the world they live in. You have a responsibility too, to become better at supervising their use of the technology. And if you do that, many things will happen. Here are the 3 B's. Here are the things you need to know. First of all, be supportive. Be supportive of their interests. Don't make using technology something bad. They will sneak behind your back and they'll do it. All right? So be there with them. Be involved. Learn the applications. Share your accounts. It's better for you to see what they're doing. And lastly, be updated. Learn how to use the restrictions that the technology gives you so that you can better supervise your children. And if you do this, you will be able to enter their world of technology, which will be a much better, safer, and more advantageous place. Thank you very much for listening.